Друзья, всем привет. Давайте почти будем собираться. Да,
This is just a very quick hello, and I'd really like to try to get together with you on Telegram very soon, perhaps even later today or tomorrow.
так, чтобы меня видели.
It's just that you can't see. I would really like to chat with you in a way where you can't see regarding the 5,000 participants.
Сейчас
When I wrote in the chat, I realized that the format here is different. It's not like what we have now, where we can have two-way communication. There, you can only do a broadcast for 5,000 people. And when the guys, most likely the ones who organized the zone and created these rooms, did it, they probably got confused about the fact that you can have a maximum of 5,000, but that's the absolute limit. I checked, and you can actually have up to 1,000 people.
Так, друзья, всех еще раз приветствую. Давайте будем работать чатом. Друзья, смотрите, сегодня у нас такой формат, очень многие из вас меня не знают.
So, friends, once again, welcome everyone. Let's work with the chat.
В принципе, там
Friends, look, today we have this kind of format, and many of you don't know me. A lot of people, basically. I was only recently seen with the company. We used to communicate much more before. Now we have some very urgent issues that can't be postponed, so we're a bit more focused on solving them rather than just chatting. But I think we still shouldn't forget about each other. So today, I'd like to keep things simple and not overload anyone. We won't be mixing things that don't go together, like education and philosophy. So, what would I like to do? I'd like to talk with many of you today. A lot of you have questions, some worries. That's understandable for many of you, for obvious reasons. That's why today I'd just like to have a simple conversation with you all, without any technical focus on products or anything like that. No one is going to try to sell you anything, motivate you, or force you to do anything. We'll just talk and address our questions. I think that'll make things easier for many of you. As for the company, I think everyone will rest on Saturday and Sunday, either Monday or Tuesday. Monday is often really busy, so maybe Tuesday. We'll pick a day when we can really get started and work closely together. And we'll cover the technical news as well. And if before I would just announce them, now we'll work in a more interactive way. Meaning, we'll also talk about how to apply them. We'll go into detail about where and how they'll be used, share some tips, and so on. That's it. Maybe it'll be more recommendations than advice. So today is just two. I understand there will still be a lot of different questions. And even if I give some technical information, it probably won't all sink in. So today is more of an introductory talk. And we'll still get to everything by Monday.
Так. Я не до конца, конечно, знаю, как моделировать эти вопросы, потому что я думаю, что множество из них будет.
I know how to structure these questions, because I think many of them will be similar. And the thing is, there's no wisdom hidden here. Everything is out in the open, even transparent. That's how it's been for us from the very beginning, because it was one of the key features and needs we had. For company personnel, it's important they clearly understand all processes, ensuring transparency, not confusion or complication, not fantasy or magic, and so on. That's why even the format of today's meeting is like this. And the same goes for all previous crisis meetings, where everything is as open as possible. Of course, there might be some haters who try to ruin the mood. Honestly, I still hope that you won't be surprised by any of this anymore. I think the first question right away is about Forex. Specifically, when will the pool be launched? The process is already underway for Forex. I think today we'll touch on this topic with some deeper questions and talk about it as a whole. If we're talking about when it will be opened as soon as the restrictions from law enforcement are lifted. Or, actually, the whole situation has already. It's not just that it's gotten incredibly tiresome and utterly exhausting, and has truly turned everything completely upside down, but in a much broader general sense, not just one singular method is being utilized. Indeed, absolutely everything possible is being employed from all conceivable sides, including substantial and significant support from the government and various influential financial entities, organizations, regulators, and commissions. Many are involved. All are currently engaged. I hope everything starts working soon. Maybe it will be possible to resume everything before a decision is made here, and even without it. In any case, we'll be waiting for information. No one will tell you any specific dates. After the network, we were expecting things to happen at the beginning of January, and then this not-so-great situation happened. I think I'm also ready, in principle, to talk about it today. Just a bit, without going into details. And basically, a second situation developed. So, at the moment, we're all dealing with it legally. Everything should be much simpler with all these processes. But just because we've already been burned so many times by everything, we're using absolutely every possible option. I think it'll be soon, I won't joke. After all, this is a kind of official, more or less official meeting. But soon, I don't know, we might even resort to casting spells. But that's just because we want things to move as quickly as possible. Still, we want to give everyone the opportunity to use this service, because we understand the huge responsibility we have to everyone, and that for many, this is a vital tool that has fed them, helped them, and so on. With the understanding that people really need this, and not even thinking about ourselves first. Although, probably, we should think about ourselves too, because otherwise, we ourselves are the company's biggest clients. So yes, basically, that's the question. I think everyone has the same question. When will withdrawals start, and when will they not be delayed anymore? In any case, from our side, it can't be any other way, especially first and foremost. It's a responsibility to you. It's the desire to preserve our reputation, because this company wasn't created out of nowhere, it was built with a name already. And at that point, with both finances and resources, we could have done anything we wanted. But because circumstances turned out the way they did, we got acquainted with a team that presented the technology. We also met people who specifically work with partnerships in this format. I think that if it weren't for them, I'm not going to mention any names. Certain partners, a company of leaders, maybe everything would have developed completely differently, like opening a traditional fund. It's just that, because of how things turned out, there were people like that nearby, and that's why we chose to develop in this way. Of course, after that you start looking for reasons why it happened this way, because there are a lot of advantages and all that, but there are also plenty of drawbacks, like when you can only invest in small pieces and you're left feeling uneasy. As soon as all of this gets sorted out, it will be possible to both deposit and withdraw. First and foremost, at least for now, we're working on withdrawals. Deposits are already a bit of a secondary matter. Of course, the company is having a tough time right now with all these restrictions. And it has a lot of expenses. But still, the main focus is at least to let people deposit. Some companies have come in, and then we'll talk about withdrawals. There are no difficulties regarding the payout of the first batch of cannabis. I think it will be paid out next week. There was a delay due to certain technical issues, most likely. I'll put it this way, why? That's what happened last week. There is news about the USSR. All right, let's go. We'll try to phrase the questions a bit more specifically. There are 1,000 people here, and it's probably very important to respect each other's time. If you really want to get your question answered, make sure it's your own and not a duplicate. 3 times, 4 times, you just need to ask for details specifically about what you want to hear. There are solutions for deposit and withdrawal, solutions for a variety of issues. In most cases now, there are many different ways, both internationally and locally, within one country and in the initiator's country. Plus, there are already a lot of aspects involving the regulator and so on. In other words, we've already brought in everyone we possibly could from all sides. If before, we weren't really in favor of bringing new people into the company, now we're much more open about it. And we're trying to notice anything that could help solve all this as quickly as possible. Friends, you keep saying, as soon as possible. Please, is it possible to make it so that the accrued interest from Forex Prime Pro is credited to Traiex at once? Withdrawals are prohibited while the process is ongoing, and if it's not possible to do it on Traiex, maybe there's an automatic review happening. But aren't you linking 2 directions that aren't actually connected? And if your money is blocked in one account, then, accordingly, it can't be used in another account. In other words, you're in a real company, where there are real processes and real trading going on. This has been demonstrated many, many, many times. Before, we used to see it live more often. It was constantly shown live at every event, at the company's anniversary. Despite all the risks, this is the only company in the world that actually does something like this. So keep in mind, when you ask about the reality of it, that if you want your money to multiply in the project and be able to withdraw it, then there needs to be a way to actually withdraw it. With Forex. In other words, you can't withdraw it accordingly, and people can't work there. Sorry, you can probably hear my nose. We have just recently submitted it in the general direction of the 600, and while it has not yet gone through the complete process, it is fully expected that it will indeed go through very soon. There, the deadlines are already set. I think the deadlines there are no more than 2 months before the court. Then there might still be court hearings there. I don't know how, or in what way, given the current situation in the country, they will be heard and whether there will be any appeals, or how long all of this will take. But as for the deadlines for the 10, there's very little time left. But basically, anyone familiar with this case understood that it's an absolutely absurd story. There was nothing even remotely resembling any kind of offense there. So, the question is basically about when deposits 1 will be available, and when the first strikes deposits will be available for withdrawal. I also truly believe that we won't have to wait for a very long time, as we are diligently working on it as much as humanly possible, and once the company's operational processes become a bit more stable and established, they will certainly become readily available. Break time equals 0.5s/. Ideally, of course, it would be best to resolve this. Ideally, of course, it would be best to resolve all the restrictions, and that would be the best possible way out of the situation. That's it. I think that both things, the solution and the stabilization of the company's operations, will happen very soon.
Я думаю, что и то, в принципе, очень быстро произойдет.
Could you please tell us if there will be an increase in returns on the regular Forex? Here, I guess, we also need to choose our wording carefully. I'll try to explain everything in the simplest possible terms so that everyone can easily understand these questions. So, the returns on Forex are not regulated by the company. I mean the company or the party responsible for trading. Of course, they can influence this. Mainly, increasing returns is equivalent to increasing risk. It's possible that the risks increase even more than the potential for returns. That's precisely why, predominantly, the influence is either on significantly improving technology or simply on utilizing more capital. Yes, returns, if you've noticed a bit, are basically built on the overall market situation lately. Even in recent years, a lot of unusual and strange things have been happening, both good and bad. That's why it's become a bit more destabilized than before. Accordingly, the company is interested in returns. And many times already, they've made it so that people can earn more. So, for that, there will be pools as well, once the Forex issue is resolved. I think there will be different pools, new ones that people can also join. And the same goes for trading on Traiex. Will you have an expanded and more comprehensive panel there, perhaps with additional analytical tools, real-time data feeds, and customizable display options to enhance the user experience and provide deeper insights for traders? All right, my dear friends, please give me just a moment or two of your time. I'll quickly step away from the microphone to grab some much-needed tissues and will be right back with you all in a flash. Okay, I'm back with you now, feeling a bit more composed. Health-wise, everything is absolutely fine, thankfully, and there are no serious concerns whatsoever, but I think you can fully understand and perhaps even empathize with the immense level of emotional and mental stress that is currently present and weighing heavily on me, given the circumstances. And that you don't sleep as well, you don't get enough rest, your body doesn't recover. That's why it affects your immune system, and when your immune system is weak, well, there's a lot going on. Air conditioners, and the heat outside, so you get sick often. And you don't have time to either recover or get better. So that's how it is. But for now, that's also on the back burner, even though health should come first. About the second cannabis pool, I think we should make the decision collectively. Those who are involved in this area, regarding what we're doing. Either we collectively exit from it and sell everything off, or we need additional funding, because this area is surviving only thanks to the company. It's not even breaking even. So ideally, if we were to use the traditional model that's always used everywhere, then everyone would need to support it together. This is the second area, but this would probably have been possible if it weren't for this situation. That kind of approach would probably have been used if everything was going well with Forex. And that's probably how it would have been. But when there are already problems with Forex, and then to threaten cannabis on top of that, it just doesn't seem right. That's why these issues don't apply to you, and the company handles them independently. Overall, regarding Canada, there's a need to work even harder. It's a large, substantial business that really deserves more respect and attention than it's currently getting. Right now, there's only so much time that can be devoted to it. So, in general, this direction. Maybe it's waiting for us, or maybe for some other reasons. In other words, the market itself hasn't really gone anywhere during this time, even though the company has faced restrictions. Regulators are still dragging their feet with approvals. In many countries, operations are gradually stabilizing. The market is leveling out. In some places, it's still taking shape. That's why I think that at first, of course, when presentations were showing examples of companies, it was a real boom, everyone was interested, everyone was rushing in. But people just didn't understand the market as a whole. Now it's really starting to gain some foundation, and next year you'll need to stand out more and be stronger. So I think all of this should pay off and multiply. And the patience for what we've been waiting for. Friends, there have been a lot of questions. That's it. Because, many times I was misunderstood, I think, by a lot of people, because since there was only a small amount of funds, there were thoughts about somehow, what's the right word, compensating for it on our own. And after that, they sort things out regarding this issue. That's what I was holding off on until the moment when. For now, this can't be the main expense. So, the situation with the IPO is the same as with other areas. The only thing is that it's actually quite easy for the company to resolve. So as soon as the company regains a bit of its strength, I think the IPO. It won't be waiting around for some decision, some legal matters, and so on. The company will handle it themselves. And they'll get help from friends, people who are writing in, seriously. Those who are writing about profit, at least about prime profit, where do you withdraw this profit from? How exactly does that work? If it's from your own pocket, then our pockets will end up exactly where everyone else's are. In fact, probably even more so in proportion. Even if we don't talk about the numbers, the proportions would be bigger. So, let's try to have some sanity, probably even in what we write, because that's really important. Most likely, this is all happening in your head. So, again, you need to understand that in this case, the only hole in the company, and this has been confirmed many times. This has been confirmed many times. In practice, because everything works, everyone is doing their best, you see everyone, you know everyone, and everyone is trying to help. So this is a common enemy, and you need to think of it as a common enemy. How could it become your friend, or somehow feel sorry for you? And the same goes for if, say, this general body were to feel sorry for tens of thousands of people and their families. If you think that this sympathy will be directed specifically at you, I really doubt it. Now, regarding support and communication with the company. If in these kinds of situations you're only thinking about yourself, about your own ego, not even about the people around you, let alone the company, then you definitely won't strengthen anything that way. The only real link left is the chain that's specifically focused on your well-being to resolve all of this. That's why I think you need to choose a strategy to support your company's advocate, not to abandon or burden them. So, I'm just reading it, not as she would skip it, because they're duplicated. So, look, the question about liquidity and 10, if the networks are the same, that is, the company has much more funds than are on the cabinet balances. That's why the values are much higher there, and accordingly, it's easy for the company to maintain a one-to-one ratio in the contest. So, we are engaged in these processes, and accordingly, there should be 11, as the company will have liquidity. It's interesting to know when leaders from Khazar Russia are sent to prison for yoners, just like that, for as much as 5 years. We're also of interest to many people, and I won't go on too much about cultural fairness and the legality of certain decisions here. In principle, it's probably more about people in general and their behavior, because maybe you can write, well, you're allowed to ask such questions without really digging into the information. But if you do dig deeper, you'll see that these are people of all different levels. A certain level of awareness, mindfulness, and understanding that are connected to these processes. I can say that there's just a huge number of them. Besides the fact that there's a whole range of social violations, a lack of evidence, and a failure to take into account a huge number of responses from the initial campaign. Even if you don't consider, let's say, just the aspect of faith in the law and being honest with yourself. So, aside from all that, there are plenty of situations where people make mistakes on their own, because some of them start to do. For example, financial transactions through themselves, which is prohibited and has been talked about many times. Maybe only without money is it possible. Thus, they are most likely breaking the law in the territories where they are located. And that's exactly what they're being charged with, not fraud, or for something else. Although, in principle, the articles differ, because in some places the punishment is lighter. Overall, the situation would most likely have been impossible. In other words, there was a certain trigger. People started admitting guilt for things that they objectively and demonstrably didn't do, even though there was no evidence to support their confessions. When the first person said that he created everything, he did it all, and that it was all bad, because he was intimidated, and to get himself some better conditions, because the person was scared. So that created a precedent, even though it had absolutely nothing to do with the company. So, because of this precedent, they started intimidating other people, or began signing blank forms. So the problem isn't even just about lawlessness, disorder, abuse of power, and many other things that you could fight against. This could have been brought to light, shown, if it hadn't ended up in the legal field, but actually won. But when people just give up on their own and put obstacles in their own way, signing various documents, agreeing, or even starting to befriend those who later deceive and set them up, well, the company can't provide a babysitter for everyone. So really, try your best. As adults, analyze everything that might happen to you, make the right decisions, don't be afraid or intimidated, and so on. If things were like that, and I hope they will be, then situations like this couldn't spread so virally.
Если так было бы, и я надеюсь, что так будет,
But the opportunity to invest definitely won't be available. As for the opportunity, question, what might come first? Withdrawals or the opportunity to invest? There definitely won't be an opportunity to invest before withdrawals are available. That's it. We need to wait for the issue to be resolved, and only when everything is working can we talk about investing. The only thing is, it will be in a different, updated format, because we've talked many times about the legal framework. The implementation, well, we kept working on it, but at that time we just didn't manage to finish it. Things moved too fast. The events took place at the end of the year, during an event held in the Emirates. After that, the issue with the network was supposed to be resolved in January. From what I can tell, someone really didn't want that to happen. So instead of resolving the network issue, new problems came up, and basically, some scary stories started happening. I don't know. I don't really want to burden you with all that information. But as for the principle, if anyone knows more about what was going on with it than I do, let me know. So, for now, we'll just have to wait until work gets back to normal. After that, we'll talk about attracting investments. Alright, just a second. Yeah, so...
Да, поэтому
So, friends, everything's good with me. I see your comments asking about my health, and everything's fine. I'm staying healthy, doing sports as usual, and my mental state is good too. It's just these moments, you know. No matter how much patience, strength, willpower, character, or resilience you have, you know, there's also the responsibility to you all, and the whole situation that's happening, and the worry about your own name, your loved ones, your family. So basically, it's just all of it together, yeah? And when you're working hard there, constantly joining Zoom calls, giving out some information, getting information, voicing it, so there are some processes going on. There are expert reviews happening, and they're going well. So you start to feel hope. Probably the worst thing is to take away someone's last bit of hope. And when you think, finally, now I'm going to break free from all of this, you wait for your life to come back. Probably even longer than you. Definitely longer than you. And all this waiting just goes on and on and on and on. And even there, everyone says, in January for sure, for sure, for sure, it's going to happen. And then all this nonsense happens, because it's hard to call it anything else. Absurd is actually the precisely right word, not mere nonsense, but profound absurdity, which truly puts you in an even significantly worse and more challenging position. And basically, in this absolutely worst and most difficult position imaginable. If you know, in order to save the company, all the available resources of the people connected to it were used. Everything was just down to zero. Everything was poured into the company, without even thinking about what we would live on afterwards. Then even personal property was sold off, and that too was put into supporting the company, without any second thoughts, just to somehow quietly get through this stretch. But the point I'm getting at is this, that the second wave that happened, obviously, all of this is absurd. Everything will be resolved. But the emotional burden is very heavy, because there were so many hopes, so much effort, so much involved.
всего
Everything was used from all sides.
с этим
And when all
связано,
this happens, it's clear that
есть
people trust you
сторонность,
less,
сторонность,
even
есть
though you're
сильные
trying really hard.
несмотря на то, что они
Well,
очень
that's
доверяют, они
understandable.
стараются очень сильно.
It causes a certain
Вот.
amount of stress.
Да мы
In
понимаем,
some
то есть
places, it
где
even wears you out,
где-то
and it
мы
affects your personal life and
достаточно
many other
нормальные,
things.
а,
So,
влияет и на личную жизнь, да, на
I think it's
определенно.
related to health. So we'll
Поэтому
resolve the company issue as soon as possible, and then we'll deal
я
with the
думаю,
health
что
issue.
связано с
We're moving
финансами,
forward on our
то,
own.
возможно, быстрее
Overall,
решим вопрос
everything
по
is fine
здоровью,
with my health.
порешим вопрос по здоровью.
For example, in terms of Chicago,
Вот.
speaking for myself,
По здоровью,
everything has been
с точки
checked.
зрения
I'm
душевного, всегда
alive,
был
healthy, I'll keep
как
living,
бы
everything's good.
все
It's
в
just that
порядке,
my
все
immune
хорошо,
system is a
будет
bit weakened,
хорошо. Вот, просто
and I don't want to waste time on
очень
treatment.
слабый иммунитет. И нет времени его долечить.
Sorry.
Thanks. Thanks.
Thank you. All right.
Мгм.
For those who write that they've never had such serious problems in their life as after the Bruce Group
Для
experience,
тех, кто пишет,
this is
что
for you.
никогда в жизни не было таких
But among the groups, it's still
серьезных
not about some kind of casino or Daria preyed on the
групп,
Pysat
все-таки
channel.
это не про
Now there are very few
казино,
organizations left where you can invest with such an opportunity, because now everyone demands knowledge.
сейчас уже очень
That's a
много
really good
организаций,
decision. I think so too. Because when someone says they've never had such problems with some investment outside of groups, it probably just means you weren't ready to be a client of the company yet. Let me explain why. Because, in general, you always need to take responsibility for your own life, for yourself. It's not about someone shifting responsibility. It's just that, probably, like Oleg said, this is going to be a straightforward, man-to-man kind of conversation. You need to take responsibility for yourself, and ideally for your family too. Take your life into your own hands. Don't count on something or someone else to save you. And you always need to think a couple of steps ahead, ideally about the future. If you just, I don't know, if you were dealing with debts, loans, and tried to make more money out of greed, then that is by no means the company's fault. So here we're talking about tools that are designed to work for the long term, at least until, I don't know, God forbid, there's some kind of global conflict, or whatever else might happen. Nothing would surprise me anymore, I think. Or unless aliens show up. That's not the point. The point is that all these tools are designed so that you don't feel the urge to think in terms of a day, a week, a month, or a year, that you have to rush, rush, grab, grab, hurry, hurry. No. You can, well, not just can, you can do it without loans, without debts, without collateral, without any of that. Greed in this story is absolutely wrong. That's it. You need to approach all of this on your own. If you just want to earn, I don't know, some amount from your 10,000, let's say, then you don't need to increase your initial sum. You just need to wait a little longer. And that's it. You won't have risks. You won't have worries. You'll sleep peacefully. You'll be more productive. Trust me. That's much more valuable than worrying somewhere, borrowing money, getting involved in things that make you uncomfortable in life, and then thinking about them every day, not being able to sleep, being anxious, and so on. Friends, regarding Russia, what exactly was it that you suggested to me? Well, everything that was suggested.
Ну все, тут нам что подсказали.
Is it possible to have income from you in September?
Можно ли быть
Well, I'd
в
like that.
сентябре? Ну,
It's just that with the broker there are also limited spots, so it's really tough.
стоят, поэтому пул очень
And now, to be honest,
вот.
with
И поэтому
Sky,
сейчас,
there's also the issue that the pools were connected,
если честно, появилось из-за того, что пул
and it was
сегодня
possible to use Sky.
и можно было использовать сети.
Because of the connection between these pools, a certain headache has come up with these matters.
Определенный головник в этих вопросах.
So for now, it's better to just leave IT there. As long as it's working, it's better not to touch it. As soon as all those storages are no longer in use there, then we can deal with it. Specific deadlines. Someone in particular is interested in exact dates.
Если вы мне посоветуете,
If you can advise me on how, from my side, I can set those deadlines for you, or request them, with some kind of guarantee that they'll be met by those dates, I'd be more than happy to answer you.
Друзья,
Friends, Vadim, we're glad to see our old partners again. I invite you to join us for the trials. I asked you to help with the Cipitox exchange, which is like a black hole where many people transferred tokens from the network. There are 10 friends regarding Cipitox. Yes, I've heard that we have some problems, generally speaking, and the team itself has changed their location, where they're based. But I think, and I hope, that we still have a relationship that's more important than these tokens, and that they will ultimately make the right decision to side with the company. That's why I asked to create an online Google Doc where people can fill in information about their accounts and the assets they have there, kind of like a feedback form, but specifically for Asapatex. Everyone will fill it out in the same format. We'll collect the information and do our best to return everything to the people who were connected to this platform. I think there's a very good chance we'll succeed in doing this. It might take them about a month, maybe a week or two right now, just to collect all these applications, because, well, like with the SEO, running back and forth, submitting applications 6 or 7 times, no one's going to do that anymore. Just once. There will be an opportunity to fill them out. You'll need to fill it out. Everyone who fills it out, we'll do our best to help. And as for those who show up 6 months later, well, sorry. I mean, I doubt we'll be able to help anyone in 6 months. For those who aren't interested in dealing with this right now. Friends, when you listen to information, try to pay close attention, especially when it comes to withdrawals. They're available faster. Well, I basically understand Ukrainian. I get Ukrainian. So that's why, for some people it's convenient. I see the breakdowns here. For others it's not convenient for me. You can write in your own language. I understand English, Ukrainian, and Russian. As for withdrawals, they'll be available faster than through the courts, or at the same time. Friends, I'm not saying there aren't different options. I mean, if it were a traditional company that didn't have a network, then honestly, no one would be dealing with any of this at all. Here, the relationship format with you is a bit different. And because everyone is connected to each other. In other words, one way or another, everyone knows everyone. This is one big team. That's why there's a fight for this team, and the fight is happening with all possible means and efforts. So, no one is saying whether it will happen or not. There is such a possibility. There is such a possibility. Whether it works out or not, we'll see. That's the opportunity, but it doesn't mean it will actually be done. So, for example, on the exchange, Rastrade could set the token price, blocking those who try to go against the rate. Well, yeah, it's kind of an innovative solution in the financial market to limit the price. Honestly, I don't think I've seen anything like this before, at least not from the very beginning. Overall, the technical capability exists. How appropriate it is, though, is still unclear.
Вадим, по ситуации проще решить вопрос по прайму или по Форексу? Ну, прайм это и есть Форекс, я
Vadim,
так понимаю,
easier to
или
resolve
проще
the
решить
issue
по
with
STT?
Prime or Forex?
Проще решить по SGCT, по
Prime is
STT, но
Forex, as I understand it.
для понимания всей
You're
этой
talking
операции
about SCTI, right?
и по
It's generally
SGCT,
easier
по
to resolve
STT,
things with
и
SCTI.
то
But to
очень
understand the
независимо от
whole
Форекса.
situation,
Вот. Но
both with
ситуация с
SCTI and SCTI,
в них очень
both are
однозначно
actually
решалась,
easy to resolve.
потому что
Absolutely.
нарушение огромное количество.
It's just that someone really doesn't want it to be resolved, apparently,
Вот. Во многих обвинения
because there are a huge number of
соответственно,
violations on the part of those who initiated all these
это не просто сказать,
processes.
что
In many
это
cases,
вообще
the
может
accusations
являться
aren't just
серьезным.
unfounded.
Вот. То есть, ну, в целом нет никаких сомнений в
They're
том,
so
что
far from
Форекс
reality that it's unclear how
решает
anyone
этот
could
вопрос тем,
possibly
что
take them seriously.
пока там есть какая-то определенная
Overall,
команда,
there's no doubt that the
которая
whole
там исполняет,
situation will be resolved. It's just a matter of,
вот, то происходит различного
as long as there's a certain team in place over there.
вот такие вот
And until they're
осложнения
removed,
для работы.
all sorts of
Вот. Потому
complications
что
keep arising
сейчас
for the
пишется,
work.
и это бред полный, конечно
So,
же.
this absurdity will be
Есть,
resolved,
это понятно.
and it's total
Наконец-то будет
nonsense, of
решен просто
course.
вопрос
That's exactly what it is. Obviously, this will be sorted out. It's just a question of,
сейчас.
now we should.
Да, друзья. Sorry за эти паузы.
Yeah, friends, thanks for these pauses.
Друзья, на брокера не наложили ограничения.
Friends, there are no restrictions imposed on the broker regarding Prime.
Брокер накладывает
It's the broker who
ограничения
imposes restrictions at someone's request,
регулятора. Вот.
or possibly at the regulator's demand.
Множество мне даже вышло, потому что, во-первых, там
Maybe the doubts arose because, first of all, there were almost cases of people being kidnapped who were connected to the company or cooperating with the company, and there are a lot of different aspects involved. For now, I'm not going to accuse anyone or say that's exactly what happened, so that later this can be taken as just a version or an opinion. I'll try, probably, to steer clear of this topic and not get too deep into it, so as not to make the situation any worse. But with Prime, from the start, you need to have a company that handles these finances and the account. That company needs to be sure that everything is in order. And when it deals with shady or unreliable companies, when all this chaos is going on, it just suspends operations. At the moment, nothing there has been seized or frozen, so it's not like the situation will be much easier to resolve. In principle, it's being dealt with. So again, I really don't even want to name the initiating country, just so, God forbid, things don't get any worse. Because an enormous amount of effort, energy, resources, money, connections, everything you can imagine, is being spent on this, even just life itself. Is all this because of some questions in the chat? I definitely don't want to mess all that up.
Вадим, есть предложение наши проценты забрать за месяц-два по всем направлениям.
Vadim, there's a suggestion that we take our percentages for a month or two from all directions, so the company can get the funds to resolve things. Most likely, it'll be later, but honestly, it's a very good-natured one. And thank you so much for your support, and for having such thoughts, for starting this kind of conversation. Thank you for caring about the company and the people. It's for things like this that you probably want to work here, among other reasons. But many people here have different circumstances. I mean, when you have such a big team, so many people, there will probably be some who agree. And we don't know how right it is to act this way. But many people have different critical situations. Some will have income at certain times, others won't. It's just a lot of things like that. There can be all sorts of moral and emotional nuances that come up in this process, as we try to resolve things as quickly as possible with our own efforts. No one wants to drag this out, and we don't have the energy to prolong it. That's why I hope that all of this will be resolved soon. Everything will be unblocked, and we'll live happily. I am currently on an extended vacation, a considerable period of time away, and that, in essence, is the complete story behind my current situation. These kinds of significant developments, particularly with the ongoing and comprehensive SVD study, will undoubtedly lead to a situation where the train journey to Ride will be viewed with considerable admiration and even a touch of envy by others. A big update on the exchange, and on S&O as well. Right now, again, unfortunately, we just don't have the resources, including financial ones, to support all these areas and develop them as much as we'd like. So they're just being maintained as part of our structural activities. Of course, I'd like to form, and not just that, a team will be formed, I think, in the next 3 to 6 months, both for Strayed and for SLP. A separate team that will focus on developing both platforms, the STD and SLP tokens. No one is forgetting about them, and no one is forgetting about the products. They will be updated, improved, and that will also have an impact. After the delay in updates, now the work with these coins on the Traiex exchange is just great. How is this related technically? Honestly, I can't answer that, because it's the first time I've encountered it not working without a VPN. Regarding updates on Trex, there will be a huge number of updates to the site. A lot of new things are coming. I think the update process will resolve itself, most likely, because when trading is happening and the money isn't moving, that's what people are interested in. If trading is happening, why are there no withdrawals if the money isn't going anywhere? Soon, with the company's fast counting, when trades are happening, there's no need to send the money back and forth. That's why there's simply no way to move them, but they can be used for trading. But even that possibility is, so to speak, individual. It all depends on the company as much as possible. Overall, unfortunately, the company is putting its Forex partner in a bit of a tough spot, even though that partner often tries to accommodate them. But I hope that all of this will pay off, at least financially. I'm pretty sure it will. You chat, there's a 15% cut. There are Gregs and Rashis. So, again, we write there for commercial purposes. Honestly, I'm already tired of all these conversions, even for my brother. Because personally, when we click there, it's companies, people connected to the company. Meaning, whoever it is, everyone has their own specific role. And only the finance people and those from the finance department are responsible for finances. The other people you see on the screen, the ones giving presentations, handling the technical side, and so on, they're not responsible for finances, so all of that just gets redirected to other people. But it's not hard to redirect, so send it over and we'll forward it. I think that's clear for everyone. That's what I wanted to say. There, most likely, you can withdraw if they're connected to the pools. Going back to profitability, I think you'll see it as soon as the pool issue is resolved. So, the decision was made to gather a variety of different pools. It'll be interesting to see how the interaction model with all these directions will work. So, there will also be this kind of portfolio, an approach to portfolio creation. In other words, a smart assistant that will help you build portfolios, allocate finances, work with different risk levels and their returns, and also take your goals into account. So, you'll have this interesting opportunity. The only thing is, it will take a little time. We often meet somewhere, probably because you have some concerns or tension. And it's not hard for me to reach out and talk with you. But all processes take time. And sometimes, even if something is supposed to be done within a week, that's one thing, but then something else comes out. Then a new urgent issue appears, and the original plan gets pushed to the back burner. As a result, what was planned doesn't get done. Sorry. When what was planned doesn't get done, and I still have to go on air, I want us to talk like this. That's why, I think, first of all, I was advised about some other rooms, webinar rooms, that we can use so we can have more people. So we'll be seen more often, in a video format. Maybe we'll even hold some training sessions or classes. I'll conduct them, and we'll talk with you. But next week, on Tuesday, we'll go over the new products again. That is, I'll share with you later, or not just about the products, but how I would work with them if I needed to achieve certain set goals. We'll communicate with you more often. I'll answer your questions. I used to have a strong immunity like that, but it weakened for a while, so let's not send those kinds of thoughts out into the universe. Just put in a couple of drops, and everything will be fine. There's just no time to do all of this. Because some meeting comes up, or, I don't know, you have to go somewhere, negotiations with a broker, some lawyers, some opportunity for the company, and so on, your presence is needed. So that becomes the priority at that moment. Until the trial is over, if you don't withdraw, there's a chance to do it before the trial ends. Whether it will happen or not is unclear. It can be done on all deposits, or if an investor doesn't need it, and if the weight was included on all deposits, in which direction was that? So, for things to go more productively, let's not ask questions for a few years. Let's just take the last 10 or 15, and I'll answer them. I'm already starting to get a bit out of breath, so I'll recover for next week. And we'll talk more with you about the technical side. Let's set that as our goal, analyze the product, discuss its development, the roadmap, and the plans for it. About how you can connect these plans with your own plans. And with the help of this tool, you can achieve your own goals and objectives. So, let's see if the questions will be resolved after the courts. Yes, they definitely will be. Please tell me, when are the payouts for Canalize planned? The first half, according to the plan, is scheduled for next week. Vadim, hello, what's happening with the tokens together? DSP network, what is planned with the Strata Steady Exchange, which is connected with the builder and the business? And if he agrees with this, maybe somewhere it's outdated, and a good product could already replace it. A very good product can be made by a competent manager, just like all the other products, SciPal, trusts, and so on, at some basic level. Right now, there are also many changes happening there. There are already changes inside to make it work at a high level. That's why teams will be formed for all these products, and as soon as they have a bit more time, they will focus on developing all of this. Accordingly, tokens will also be developed along with this. That's it. As for Yosemite, it's a wonderful product. It's commercially interesting, yes, in some short-term sense. But the product is really cool, and we will definitely work on it with you. How to attract people with it, how to use it, and we'll keep working through a lot of different aspects. When will the second batch of cannabis payouts happen? Payouts will happen as soon as the company has positive profitability. At the moment, all we can do is invoice everyone who is in the second batch. Well, that's just how it is for now. Maybe it sounds a bit harsh coming from me, probably fair, but still a bit harsh. If we're talking about, I just don't know how well everyone remembers the events that took place. The pool took a very long time to assemble. In the end, a collected decision was made to go ahead and launch the whole production. Then a force majeure situation happened, something you just can't insure against. In other words, it was a force majeure for everyone. In this story, Ukraine is the company that supports all of this on its own, and the ability to develop this product is severely limited. So, as soon as all the issues are resolved, they won't be building a business around cannabis either, even though it's a very interesting business. Basically, all the businesses that were chosen, I don't think there was any kind of failure, setback, or anything like that involved. All the directions are really cool, promising, and scalable. So, when they were launched and when these products were created, like what's being grown in the cannabis sector, the companies involved, even the guys who have been in this industry much longer can't even come close to this. That's why things are better with the company, but there's a strong effort to shut it down. They don't want to let it operate. I think if there were other people in this company, it would have closed down a long time ago. No one would have fought for it, defended it, or taken responsibility for it, the risk and responsibility. I don't know, someone else would have just sold out the people and the company, and that would have been the end of it, but not in this case. In this particular and challenging situation, the company has unequivocally stated its unwavering commitment to its dedicated personnel, vowing to steadfastly fight for their rights and well-being until the very end of this arduous process. This commitment extends until every single issue is comprehensively resolved and a state of complete stability and normalcy is thoroughly re-established within the organization. It is abundantly clear that no individual within this company, facing these circumstances, harbors any intention whatsoever of relinquishing their current position or abandoning their responsibilities. Furthermore, regarding the profoundly significant matter of their collective dignity and professional standing, they took decisive legal action by formally filing a comprehensive lawsuit in June of last year, explicitly declaring their firm resolve to pursue this critical matter through the judicial system and take it directly to court for a definitive resolution. Defending the company's dignity. As far as I know, similar lawsuits were filed in several countries. In the country where the lawsuits are ongoing, all of this shifted towards some kind of peaceful negotiations, meaning that later, the case was cancelled or put on hold, and everything was moving towards a peaceful resolution so as not to expose the main process to unnecessary risk. Now, to be completely honest, the entire approach and the precise way in which legal issues are currently being resolved are indeed changing quite significantly, so I sincerely hope that these recent and important updates will prove to be truly effective. Such blocks happen not only with brokers, but in any financial organizations. It's a very common occurrence. Previously, some leaders shared a huge number of examples to show that the company isn't the only one that such a situation has happened. There are companies that have much more money frozen. Many of them understand that, most likely, this is completely irretrievable, and they don't even fight for it. That's how it is. And for us, there's no other option but to fight for it. It's a matter of life for many people, so we keep fighting. For some, the amount is 10 or even 20 times more than what the company has frozen, some big financial corporations.
All previous businesses in all directions are only based on trust. If we all got, if we all get withdrawal, the trust will be restored.
He mentioned businesses like S and Pull Direction, Sarkon and Bays, as well as Trust and Well God. And in Algarve, without firewood, it's tough for the transfers. Try to get rid of it. So, some people say that all businesses were built on trust, or only on trust between friends. We never had the position of a snow company, log bin, or campaign. The world still won't understand, even if it's explained. I hope it gets translated. First of all, my grammar in English isn't quite right, so I really want to speak. But to answer the message, the company has always been against the trust-based approach. Trust is the most malignant thing in the world of finance. In finance, it shouldn't be about trust. It's about looking, checking things yourself. That's why the company has always demonstrated what it does. Reports, real-time reporting, and data exports used to be available on the website. Account demonstrations, showing accounts to people, to everyone at all events. Basically, whether it's on your phone or anywhere else, that's why it's never about trust. It's about showing how things actually work. This only exists in one company. As for the panic, yes, of course, it will happen sooner or later. I also mentioned that the real question is who will remain who in this story when it's all over. I mean, the people who stirred up chaos, lawlessness, and unrest, who slandered each other, what will they be left with? How will people look at them when this whole situation is resolved? Well, it's just some kind of indicator. In the end, the person who remains is the one who. Not exactly, Those who act like they're not quite mature, questions about profitability, why it goes down or up, or friends, it doesn't affect the company's size. The company is interested in having a larger amount of money at a higher percentage. So, as a reaction to what's happening, to some decreases in profitability, the company offers the possibility to adjust profitability settings, which will be connected to the fact that more funds will be used. This also affects the technology itself. There's no such option right now, and honestly, it's not the best time to ask the guys to update it so it works better. The main thing is that it doesn't start working worse after that. In other words, there's a golden rule. As long as it's working, let it keep working. So the only safe solution is to manage risks through the amount of funds, to increase risks, and by increasing those risks, to increase profitability. Remember, the company is actually interested in you having the highest possible profitability, because the higher your returns, the higher the company's returns. So it's not just that you're in the same boat, you're actually on the same side, in the same boat, for example, like the presentation I gave on cannabis. Are you trying to say it's not your fault about the second cannabis issue? You can blame me for anything you want, I don't mind. And you can think that everyone else is to blame except you. You can live like that if you want. I'm not a life coach, and I definitely didn't come to the meeting today to teach anyone how to live or to change anyone. At least as far as today's meeting goes, that's for sure, and I doubt I'll ever get into that kind of thing at all. Everyone lives their own life and has their own perspective. I don't have the time to work things out perfectly with someone or to retrain them. And I have neither the desire nor the need for that, so everyone perceives things however they want. We're free, thankfully, at least in this, we're still free, at least until they restrict us so much that we lose even this freedom. Think about something, at least about other people. All right, I won't. Man, I really want to switch to different topics, to be honest. Everything is kind of political around here. And it's already really scary, isn't it, just to even touch on something vaguely political. That's why I'm going to be very careful, even though there are a lot of interesting examples. That could be explored further. Vadim, can you tell me, is there a chance to withdraw SGC without going to court? Or does that process absolutely have to go through the courts? There is a chance, and it's about 50-50. Well, it's actually possible, basically, and that's exactly what we're working on. But at the same time, nobody wants to give people false hope either. Like I said, when hope is taken away, and when we're promised something and it doesn't happen, it really hits us hard. That's why people care about you and don't want that to happen. And so, they don't want to give you hope and then not deliver on it. That's what we're working on. There's a good chance it will happen, and I hope it works out. I don't want to jinx it by talking too much about things that haven't happened yet, so for now, it's less talk and more action. So just hold on to your money for now, and when everything is sorted out with the audits and the new pool opens, then you'll know where to get it back from. Tell me if I should return it myself or ask someone else to do it. It's just that when people ask these kinds of questions, what do you think? I mean, do you really think all these blockages don't affect us, or do I just not understand how your thinking works? If there was some huge safe somewhere with bags of money in it, then it wouldn't be a problem to just go and take it out. even if it were your own money in those bags. That's why I just don't understand how to approach these questions.
в которой вы живете, и желание жить, а жить в реальности, потому что если вы не будете находиться в реальности, реально
Are you
воспринимать
alive?
ситуацию,
And not to exist, but to live in
в
reality,
роли
because
какого-то
you won't perceive the situation if you're not grounded in reality.
все виноваты, и все вокруг плохо, и все
You'll end up acting
логично
like some
делать,
helpless child,
то
blaming everyone else and expecting
я думаю,
everything to
что
magically work
здесь
out. Do it.
никакого
It's time.
результата
I think that
это
time has long
не
since
восстановить.
passed.
Вот здесь к этому
There's no
прилагается
mom or
время,
dad up
вы
above here who will magically give you
имеете
toys.
ответственность, вот, и
Here, there's a real
собираете
picture where
деньги,
everyone has their own
решать
role and
проблемы,
their own responsibility.
которые нужно
And
принять.
there's a real state of affairs. And many things happen in life that you have to accept and deal with.
Так, друзья, я думаю, что мы будем по чуть-чуть финишировать. Кто-то общий вот так, здесь
Friends, I think we're going to wrap up.
просто чтобы я тут
In general, there's an understanding.
обрабатывал
Of
всё,
course, there's an understanding.
вот,
I think it's just that this company is taking on all the problems of the market right now.
наш с вами
We are, so to
единственная компания
speak,
на рынке,
the only
которая
company
сейчас
left on the market in recent years,
и которая
and we're the one
мешает
that's
всем
bothering
мешает
absolutely
всем
everyone,
создавать
the one that's
нормальные,
stopping many
такие,
from creating bad
потому что,
companies.
имея реальные компании на
Because
рынке,
when there are real
многие
companies on the market,
компании
these bad companies,
могут просто
various hypes, high yield
никому
schemes,
не интересны,
aren't
никому не
interesting to
нужны,
anyone.
с ними
They can't compete.
то же самое и для
The
каких-то
same goes for
правительственных
banks and financial
компаний.
institutions. This company is a problem for them.
Очень
It's really
навязчиво,
inconvenient for
потому
them,
что
as I've already said, because when you have more stable tools at work, in real
рабочие
finance, in
финансовые
business,
инструменты,
in the
бизнесе,
economy,
экономике,
and you're a much more
они
resilient
намного
and
более
structured
устойчивые
organization
и
than any
устойчивые
banks,
организации,
investment funds,
чем
investment
многие
companies, or
имеющие крупные
others, while
компании,
also offering even higher
вот,
returns,
имея при этом еще больше
and a lot of other different
возможностей.
opportunities.
И, конечно,
And of course, there are those who don't like that. And so, in every possible way and with all their might, they try to harm and interfere.
помешать ему.
Maybe,
Ну и
somewhere along the way,
активизируется
they even join forces against a common enemy. I don't
любого
know.
общего врага. Поэтому
So it's easy to see
я
who all
думаю,
this
что
is
мне это все
bothering.
мешает. Мешает многим.
It bothers a lot of people in many countries.
Я вот не
I
понимаю,
just don't get it,
все,
like
вот
folks here on Forex, but there's no withdrawal.
выгода нет,
There's just no way to withdraw.
и не
So that means there's no new money coming in,
то,
and the old money,
что есть,
the money that's in the
не
account,
двигается никуда.
it's still there. It hasn't gone anywhere from the account.
Так. Друзья, я, к сожалению, уже не смогу
Friends,
читать вопросы.
unfortunately, I won't be able to read the
Спасибо
last
большое.
questions anymore.
Сегодня
Thank you all
неплохая
for
дискуссия.
today's
Я
stream.
думаю,
We had a bit of a discussion
думаю,
today.
что, возможно, мы какую-то часть
I think maybe we'll take our
разговора
conversations and stories somewhere else for now, because I still
теперь
couldn't open up about a
все
lot of
упирается в
things,
инструменты,
even
которые
though I
могут
wanted to
быть
share them with you. Some.
каким-то
There are a lot of things I wanted to
могу
share,
чем-то
my
поделиться своими
worries,
переживаниями.
so you'd understand just
Понимаю,
how
насколько
serious this
это
is.
ощущается и
It's felt by people who,
людьми, которые
I'm busy,
занят,
busy,
занят,
busy.
занят. Насколько это
How serious does it really feel? Irina,
ощущается.
come on, don't joke around,
Извини, не
please,
понравилось,
just
пожалуйста,
for a second.
секундочку. А,
Yeah,
да,
how
спасибо
serious does it
большое.
feel to the people who are
Постараюсь
trying to
быть
help you?
вот. Буду
I'll wrap up
очень
now.
большое спасибо.
Thanks to
Будем
everyone.
чаще
We'll meet
встречаться.
more often. Let's keep meeting.
Встречаться. Я
I
думаю,
think, let's see at what level. Right
сложно
now there are about
увидеть,
15% or more, 16% and
15%
up
и выше,
of active people.
16% и
We
выше.
need to communicate more closely, after all.
Здесь более плотно коммуницировать все-таки.
The dynamics regarding the company's development and recovery are positive. Companies are gradually picking up, and the team is getting back on its feet. Thank you for your support, for being here. Everything will definitely be all right. We'll keep fighting until we win, and I think that victory should already be on its way. Everyone deserves it. Thank you all. See you in the next broadcast. Supposedly on Tuesday. We'll announce it in the chats. Thank you.